absolutely horrible and absolutely unacceptable. But a similar thing happened at the Sikh temple in Vancouver. This is a serious situation where, Canadian citizens who happen to become violent are preventing the Indian consular officials from carrying on serving people who need to be served. Now you have what you have, and we are reaping the fruits of Mr. Trudeau's indulgence of the Khalistanis. They're not regular, ordinary Sikhs. Vast majority of the Sikhs aren't Khalistanis. Well, it's absolutely horrible and absolutely unacceptable. But a similar thing happened at the Sikh temple in Vancouver, where the consular officials were holding the event for life certificates for seniors and the like. But it's absolutely condemnable, and the politicians, however, haven't called out the Khalistanis by name when they've sort of mealy-mouthed condemnations that usually come regular format. But this is a serious situation where Canadian citizens who happen to become violent are preventing the Indian consular officials from carrying on serving people who need to be served at people's convenience. And that's absolutely improper for them to do what they're doing, the Khalistanis, and they should be called out by name. And it is, from my perspective, this is not new. I mean, it's been going on in different forms: intimidation in meetings, intimidation in parades, intimidation at the temples, violence at the temples, threats at the temples. And the politicians have paid no attention. And now things have escalated. And so this is an absolute failure of the political class in this country who are suffering from collective amnesia, as well as the law enforcement agencies who have done nothing. If somebody said Jews should be deported from Canada, that person would be prosecuted. Here, Pannu, who's a Canadian citizen, and comes to Canada often, says Hindus should be expelled from Canada. Well, why is that not a hate crime? So, ultimately, what I'm saying to you is that this is not an easy situation. Politicians have slept through for the last 5 or 10 years. The things were dying down, calming down. But when Mr. Trudeau arrived on the scene with the full paraphernalia of the Khalistanis around him, things got a new gusto, new wind in their sails. And now you have what you have. And we are reaping the fruits of Mr. Trudeau's indulgence of the Khalistanis, intentioned, intentioned, quite deliberate indulgence of the Khalistanis.
Uh, since you spoke about Mr. Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister also condemned this attack and saying that the act of violence are unacceptable in the country. The clarification or the statement given by Prime Minister Trudeau, what's your take in this?
Well, I mean, why didn't he name the Khalistanis? He knows that these are Khalistanis. They're not regular, ordinary Sikhs. Vast majority of the Sikhs aren't Khalistanis. So let's call a spade a spade. But Mr. Trudeau has never done that. Mr. Jagmeet Singh has never done that. Pierre Poilievre has never done that. And in fact, Pierre Poilievre has aggravated this whole situation by canceling the Diwali event that happened on the Hill every year. I attended it for several years when I was the MP. It predates, it's been going on for a long time.
Regarding who is the main perpetrator behind these attacks, according to you, because we have seen series of attacks taking place, and this news has been quite regular from Canada. Who are these people behind it?
Well, these are, I don't know who they are individually. They obviously, are dressed as Sikhs with long beards and saffron turbans, many of them. I mean, there are some clean-shaven ones too among them. And they carry Khalistan flags on wooden or steel poles. I don't know. I haven't seen the poles. I've seen them only in the videos. And they use those poles to inflict violence upon people who disagree with them. And I just saw a video where somebody said that a police officer from Ontario was part of that particular demonstration or violence where in Brampton at the Hindu temple. Now, whether he participated in the violence or not, I don't know, but he was certainly participating in the demonstration. I thought, as a former attorney general, if that's true, as a former attorney general, I mean, one should know that police officers aren't allowed to publicly participate in political events. They can vote, obviously, that's their right, but I've never seen, police officers actually participating in demonstrations.
Hmm. Because you must have seen the video as well, where the action was taken against the Hindu devotees, the community which was present inside the temple, but no action was taken on the Khalistanis. Your thoughts on this, Raj?
You mean the temple in Surrey?
In Surrey, and we also saw the same thing in Brampton as well. The action, not much against the Khalistanis. Why is it?
Well, I can't tell you that. I mean, police have tactics. I mean, they may have been standing in front of the Hindu temple so that the supporters, the devotees from inside won't come and there wouldn't be a clash. So
Mhm.
on the other side, people were standing and perhaps sloganeering, and the police first obligation, and people may have been wanting to jump and go have a fight, so people, police may have stopped them, and that may appear to you one-sided, but it may not be. It depends on what the police were trying to do at that time. I mean, if the Khalistanis were beating up on the devotees and the police were actually holding the devotees down, I would worry about that. But if they're just trying to keep them apart, that's something police usually do. I haven't seen those things.
Because according to Peer Regional Police statement that which they have given, they said that as a result of these demonstrations, 3 individuals have been arrested and criminal charges of their action. This kind of arrest and the action taken by the police, do you think it will deter from future instances?
Well, if they actually catch the real culprits who were on the front lines and hitting other people over their backs and heads, I saw part of that in a video. That was absolutely horrible for ordinary people. They go to the temple to pray or get the counselor service, and then they get beaten up like this. It's absolutely unacceptable. It's like suddenly Canada has become an uncivilized place from a civilized country, and it's all the blame all rests at the doorstep of the Canadian politicians. And the charges are usually public. So if the police have laid charges, you should ask them to make them public so that people at least have some confidence in the law enforcement here.
Let's talk about the India-Canada relationship. You have been part of the cabinet. Your take on the current situation, because it has certainly hit rock bottom, the Indo-Canada relationship. What are your thoughts?
Well, Indo-Canadian relationship is more complex, and I think that I mean, nobody is perfect between the two countries. I think that India takes the U.S. situation seriously. They should take the Canadian situation seriously. I mean, Canada is a serious country. It's not an unserious country. If Canada has made the allegations, no matter how they have made them, if the allegations are made, then there must be some substance. Obviously, 4 people have been charged, and the evidence will be produced in court. I think the sooner both sides get down to actually figuring it out how to resolve this, the better it would be for India, for Canada, and most appropriately for all of us that live here as Indo-Canadians.
Yes, sir. Because we have seen rebuttal from Indian side regarding Canada's allegation that the Union Home Minister is authorized to attack on the Sikhs in Canada. Indian government has said that it's absurd and baseless. Reference made by the minister before the parliamentary panel, and they've also summoned the representative of the High Commission of Canada in India. Uh, this has gone viral in that way, sir, because the rebuttal which has come now, the statements which are coming from Canada, where do you see it's going?
Well, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that that what appears to the rest of the world is that these two countries are sort of one upping on the other, and rather than seriously sitting down and dealing with the situation. The allegations.
The allegations and the response from the Indian government in calling it baseless.
Yeah, no. Look, I mean, the allegations are serious, and not made by Canada, not made in the same way that the US had made them, more discreetly. That's true. But the fact is, if there is smoke, there's fire. So if India has done something, then India should sort of, as they say, in male chauvinist terms, man up to it and and say, let's figure it out. Let's deal with it. And it's the same evidence. It's related evidence, same evidence that the U.S. has. U.S. has provided that evidence and perhaps more to Canada, and my view is that I think India should take it more seriously than it's taking, and Canada should perhaps deal with it, more in a more statesman-like fashion.
Because Indian government just reacted on the Brampton incident, and they said that we call on the government of Canada to ensure all places of worship are protected of such attacks, and we expect indulgence in violence will be prosecuted. And we're deeply concerned about the safety and security of the Indian nationals in Canada. Uh, do you think it will have an impact and it will change the scenario?
I don't know whether that would have an impact. I mean, most of us are Canadian citizens, and therefore Canada is responsible for our safety. And obviously, India, has made a statement, and countries obviously have these kinds of difficulties. India has them too, and they deal with them. Canada has them too. My only concern as a Canadian is that this violence by the extremists and the threats and the hate speeches, they've been ignored for a long time. And if they had they not been ignored or neglected for such a long time, we may not have been facing what we're facing today.
This brings me to the last question. You famously gave a statement to a national TV, and you called Prime Minister Trudeau as an idiot as well, and socially and politically understanding, as far as politically and socially understanding. What was the statement, sir, and what prompted you to do?
No, I was talking about how do you build a country? And in Canada, I mean, he's famous for saying Canada has no mainstream culture, and if you have no mainstream, then you're not really a people. You're not really a country. You're just a conglomerate of different people living together. But the fact is that we have Canadian values, we have Canadian culture, we have Canadian mainstream, and that angers me because what Mr. Trudeau does by saying those kinds of things, he actually encourages people to live in ghettos. Because his most famous comment usually is, when you come to Canada, you can be who you are. I usually say, if you want to come to Canada, you should learn something Canadian, learn Canadian values. If you want to be who you are, why come to Canada? You already are who you are.